Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about the difference between building muscle and toning up. Um, my name is Fresh Day and I'm here with Amino Z. Basically, this webinar is going to help to break down some of the myths surrounding lifting weights and how we understand our physiology and how to reach your goals. So, the difference between building muscle and toning up. Um, First thing is that we have to understand what muscle is. We all have muscle, and building muscle and building strength are two different things, and one does not necessarily lead to the other. So, muscle strength is simply defined as how a muscle contracts. So, the force of the contraction of a muscle. So, there are several hundred and thousands of muscle cells, and each of those fibers are going to contract, and that is strength. Muscle size does not necessarily correlate to muscle strength. So that means that bigger muscles are not necessarily stronger muscles. So when we talk about building muscle volume or muscle size, we're referring to hypertrophy, which means just increasing muscle size. So when we train for that, we're not necessarily improving our strength. Um, Inevitably, of course, will be some crossover, and we'll get to that a little bit later. The second thing to define is tone up. So we always hear people say, I want to tone up my muscles. So the first thing here is to understand, of course, we hear a lot of women saying, I want to tone up. There are a lot of guys also say they want to tone up, not necessarily get bigger, but they want to have more defined muscles. The word tone up is a little bit misleading because when we think of tone up, we think about being able to see a defined muscle on the outside of the skin. So being able to see a defined bicep, defined chest, defined muscles in the back. So we don't want to mix up muscle definition with tone up. Muscle tone actually refers to how dense a muscle is. So a small muscle can be very toned if it is very dense. Um, that is to say that the stronger a muscle is, the more tone it will be. However, that doesn't mean that you'll necessarily be able to see the muscle from the outside of the skin. So toning up is not an aesthetic thing. Muscle definition is more of the aesthetic, and muscle definition is not totally related to how we train, but more how we eat. So what I would like to clear up here is that toning up is not done as people tend to believe. It's not done by doing 20 or 30 repetitions of a light weight. That will not cause a muscle to tone up. When we refer to toning up in the form of I want to see better muscle definition, that is actually a result of a very low carbohydrate diet. So by losing the fat on the surface of the skin, we're going to be able to see the muscle and we're going to have muscle definition, and that is how we get defined muscles. When we refer to toning up, we're actually just talking about having the muscle feel firm. So if you touch the muscle underneath the layer of fat that is underneath everyone's skin, there's the muscle, and if you poke the muscle, if it's hard, that is better muscle tone. If it's mushy, then that's less muscle tone. So what we're really getting at here is how to get defined muscles and how to grow muscle size. So there, as I mentioned, is a lot of crossover between bulking up or hypertrophy and toning up or getting defined muscles. The most classic person who goes for a bulk up is a guy. Guys usually want to have a more toned or bulky upper body. And the advantage for men in bodybuilding or in getting bulked up is that men have a physiological advantage because of the hormone levels in their bodies. So the exact same training program for a man and a woman, even if it's at the same weight and same intensity and same volume of training, a man will tend to grow larger muscles, and a woman may be able to keep up with that program and may become stronger and stronger, but will not necessarily grow the same kind of muscle volume. So for the ladies out there, lifting heavy weights or training with a bodybuilding program will not necessarily make you a big husky man. And same thing for men. The body has a sort of upper limit where you're going to be able to grow muscle naturally, but your genetics are going to play a big role. So for ectomorphs, the volume of muscle that you will be able to grow is going to have a limit. And beyond that point, you'll need some kind of supplementation to change the hormone levels to assist the muscles to grow larger. So that's one point for bulking up. The differences in training for toning up or for hypertrophy is going to be in the intensity of the training, the volume of the training, and the rests between each set. So for bodybuilding or for hypertrophy, you're going to be actually doing lower reps, so that it's a little bit heavier, a little bit higher weight. So we're going to have between 6 and 8 reps. We're going to do short rests, which means that you're going to have maybe 30 to 60 seconds between each set. And finally, the training volume is going to be quite large. So even though you're doing maybe sets of 6, you'll do 4 or 5 or 6 sets of 6 of each exercise. This short rest has actually been proven in studies to be the most telling factor. So when the rests between sets are short, it triggers the muscles during the recovery period to grow muscle size, because it sort of tricks the muscles to thinking that they're not quite strong enough or they're not quite capable enough, causing more muscle tears and more muscle volume to grow. Then of course there's also similarities in training. So for the exercises are going to be pretty similar between the two. There are only so many exercises out there. Almost all of them help to improve contraction force of a muscle. So it just helps the muscle to learn how to contract faster or contract stronger or contract for longer periods of time. So the exercises themselves don't have to change. It's how we use those exercises. The level of intensity, as we mentioned before, is going to be, it actually can be high for both of them. So you can actually tone up by doing hypertrophy training. So if your goal is to bulk up and you use a high intensity, you're going to bulk up, but you'll also become more toned. So that's one similarity. And inevitably, as I mentioned, there is going to be a crossover. So with both training methods, you're going to improve in your strength. You're going to improve in your tone with both. And the volume of your training will end up being the same. So there's not that much difference between toning up and bulking up. So here I'm going to give you a sample workout for muscle building. So you can do training in, there's hundreds of ways of doing your training programs. This is just one really simple program. We've got a 3-day split, which is a simple split for bodybuilding. We've got day 1, day 2, day 3. So each of those days you'll have a different exercise program, and hopefully by the end of 1 week you'll get through at least 5, maybe 6 days of training. So you'll rotate between day 1, day 2, and then day 3. Day 1 here, I've made a split for legs. The next split is chest and triceps and shoulders, and then day 3 is going to be your back and biceps. I've split these into muscle groups which work together. That means that your chest and your triceps, they work together on the same motions, and your back and your biceps, they work together. So kind of the pushing motions, the pulling motions, and then I separated legs into a separate day. So day 1, we've got squats, deadlifts, leg curls, and leg press. Really simple. Squats and deadlifts are going to cover, squats are going to cover all of the lower limb muscles. The deadlifts are going to focus on the glutes and the hamstrings and the back, low back. Leg curls focus exclusively on the hamstrings, and you can use a variety of different machines to do leg curls, seated or lying. And then finally, leg press similarly works exclusively on the quads, and it's kind of an easier form of doing a squat, which involves a lot less muscles. So then day 2, we've got bench press, tricep kickbacks, flies, military press. So similar here, bench press uses a lot of the chest, the triceps depending on how your grip is set, the flies again for the chest, and then the military press is another one for the shoulders. And finally day 3 for chest and back, for For back and biceps, we've got the bent rows, bicep curl, Roman deadlift, and pull-ups. Each of these, I would say, perform 4 sets. Each one's going to be 6 to 8 repetitions. And those 6 to 8 repetitions should be your not quite to failure reps, but very close to failure. So by the 4th and the 5th, and finally the 6th repetition, it should be very, very heavy. And then the key here, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be to keep your rests very short. So that means that your first set, if you pump out 8 repetitions, it doesn't mean you necessarily need to go up to a heavier weight, because on the second set and then the third set and then the fourth set, you're going to be most likely exhausted. That muscle is going to be seriously done for, and you might only be able to put on the fourth one 5 or 6 reps compared to the 8 on the first one. So once you're able to finish a whole workout, so all of those 4 sets at 8 reps, if you can do that, then it's time to move up to the next weight. That was what your training sample would look like for building muscle or for a hypertrophy program. And as I said, there's a lot of different ways of doing this. This is not, a one-size-fits-all. There's obviously a few things missing in here for the shoulders, but a very simple plan that will work. Then a sample training program for a tone-up. Now, toning up is a little bit more generalized. We haven't got a focus here necessarily. We're going to do a really nice split for a general workout for the whole body. So we've only got a 2-day split. Day 1 is going to be lower body, and day 2 is going to be upper body. Squats, walking lunges, deadlifts, and step-ups. These exercises are chosen because each one of them uses several muscle groups. It's going to use all of the muscles in the legs for almost all of the exercises. So these are very dynamic movements, and they're pretty technical as well. Squats especially, they're pretty technical. These movements can be done with weight, whatever weight is fine for you. And then we've got day 2 here. Again, some of them are weighted, some of them are just body weight. So push-ups for yourself on the floor, bent rows, curl and military press, pull-ups, cable pull-downs, and dynamic push-ups. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exercises. So not bad, a simple program. It won't take you long, these workouts. And with a 2-day split, you can do each of these workouts twice in a week, which is not bad at all, and you'll still get a lot of gains from them. You'll still become a lot stronger, and the muscles will become a lot more toned. Here we're doing 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. Now, the reason that I said earlier that the volume of training is the same, the volume of training refers to how many repetitions we do in total at the end of a workout. So here, if we're doing 3 sets of 12, is about the same as 4 sets of 8. So we're working out to a very similar rep range. The final difference is the rest in between. So there's a big part of this that has to do with the rest. For toning up, the 60 to 90 second rest is going to allow the muscles to recover fully. These rep ranges are not that difficult, so 60 seconds should be enough, but 90 seconds should be more than enough for you to feel like you can go out and pump out the same number of repetitions as you did in the previous set. Allowing a full recovery allows the muscles to perform at their best for every rep and every set. And that's the main difference between this and bulking up. Your muscles are not going to find it necessary to increase muscle fibers if they're not being strained at every set to perform every single repetition. So if you're getting a partial rest and then forcing the muscles to contract maximally again, and then a partial rest and forcing the muscles to contract maximally again, that is what's really going to incite the muscles to hypertrophy. Whereas in this case, you're still going to be able to get stronger and get all of the same gains except for the muscle size, with technically the same training volume and the same exercises. Both programs shouldn't take very long, maybe 30 minutes of each, and combine that with a nice high-intensity interval training program. You're going to be able to burn fat as well at the same time, and that's going to allow you to get that muscle definition that you're really looking for. Altogether, your workouts, maybe an hour and 10, 15 minutes, and you'll be on your way to toning up or bulking up as you'd like.